Hey guys. Wow, this is amazing. I'm so glad this has finally worked out. Everyone out there watching, I'm Jason. I am the IB Career Related Program Coordinator at Chadwick International School in Incheon, South Korea. And with me, I have these esteemed guests, and I want them to introduce themselves. So let's see, who wants to go first? You just jump in.
I guess we'll keep it in Korea.
Okay.
My name's Sean Forty. I'm the elementary ed tech integrationist at Chadwick International in Songdo, South Korea.
How's it going? I'm JD, the technology director in Qingdao Amerasia International School and the Baishan Education Group, so in Qingdao, China. Glad to be with you fellas, and possibly ladies later as well. I heard there may be a special guest potentially joining later as well. So, can you hear me all right?
Yep. I can hear you.
Okay. Can you guys hear me? JD, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Sorry, I think we had a little bit of a bump there. Cool. So, JD, thanks so much for being here, man. Chris, can you have you introduced yourself yet?
No, I have not. I'm going to keep my camera off because it's still really hard to hear audio right now. You guys are really garbled. So I heard JD is from Qingdao, and that was about it. I teach design over in Shanghai Community International School, Shanghai. And yeah, we've been out for a month now, and I'm running out of stuff to do. And looking forward to maybe get some ideas on what we can do with kids in a virtual world when they're supposed to be working with their hands. So, yeah. I was fortunate to work with Jason for a year in Korea before I left 2 years ago to work over in Shanghai.
Yeah, Chris is a good man. You worked with Sean Forty too. But
thanks, Chris.
I wasn't working directly with Sean Forty. We were colleagues, yes.
Yeah. So lucky you. All right. Sounds good. So anybody who's watching and want to leave comments, we'd love to have those. And that way we can add them to the screen and talk about them a little bit as well. So I'd like to hear a little bit, JD, it's been a while since I've had a chance to chat with you. Tell me, what are you guys doing? I know that you do more on the sort of ed tech IT side of things, but you were a design teacher previously. So what sorts of things are you guys doing, and what are you finding success with, and what are some challenges that you're having?
Yeah, good question. I think it's actually a very obviously relevant time to do this this podcast. So Jason, thanks for the invite and putting this together too. I'm sure hopefully it'll be helpful not only for I think people around the world or maybe people in China, but I think this is something that is applicable not just for situations like for now, but it could be useful integrating tools and technology in your classrooms at any time, right? I think one of the things that I will say a couple things. One is this situation, which I don't really want to talk too much about, I guess, but you all know it was a big surprise, right? And obviously, really hoping for the best, everybody's health and things like that. And it's obviously, it's not the best situation anytime anybody's ever put in, when it comes to health and things like that, always health and things first, and always wishing the best for everybody. So I want to say that up front. But you always try to find things that, sometimes in the worst circumstances, sometimes there's also opportunities. And I think there's opportunities for growth. And so in terms of an organization, obviously this kind of came out the blue, and I have to give credit to all around. Really, I think there's been a great response. Our team really dove in, whether it's I think at every level, I really feel like it's been a really synergistic sort of thing that allowed really a good thing to happen. So starting obviously from the team within our own admin team and school response, and then even as the city and then as the country. So it's pretty amazing. But I'll try to focus more on design and tech right now. And one of the things was we have been building up to this for a while, right? You're sort of trying to put in tools. And as you mentioned, who was that, Chris? You mentioned you really want to have students hands-on, right? That's the best approach. You know, classes in general, you really don't want to stand there the whole time and just talk and lecture, right? So really been doing flipped classes for years, right? So it's not something new. I think if you really want to maximize class time or maximize the impact that a teacher has, right? It's no longer the model where you stand and talk for hours and hours because there's the only, you really try to use that time, I think, in class to be a facilitator and working in teams and collaboration, right? And trying to help students reach their next level. So by preparing content in advance, right? Preparing those basic skills and tasks and kind of using technology to really come up with a tight, tight package of content, right? To where, and Jason, I think you're really good with this too, in terms of really having your material really well crafted, right? And then trying to have that, and then using it as that's your springboard, right? Where you're using class time to actually do hands-on stuff. So I think, in short, I don't think this is anything too new for a lot of people that are really, ahead of the game, right? You're doing flip class kind of approach and style. But I could get a little bit more into specifics on how we've adapted it as an organization, because I don't think that some people haven't been doing this, I think, and it's new to them, right? So there's been some really cool tools that I'm happy to talk about and discuss. And I think it's been an opportunity to actually get some people on board that maybe before they haven't, they've had a great style of their own, but they haven't really, they haven't explored some of these tools that we're using now, we're forced to use. So I think in that sense, trying to see the opportunity as an organization to actually level up, right? Have the teachers, have the staff, have the admin team, have this organization, even communication with the parents, reach a whole new level, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Sean, I think we've talked a little bit about that very same thing, haven't we?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can speak at least more so for the village school here, but like what you were saying, it was a good, bad thing to happen. And it definitely in our school, like we tried to keep it as simple as possible with platforms and what the expectations were. So it's nothing new, but it was awesome seeing some of the people that have had horse blinders on and kind of stuck in their lane reach out and try different things like Zooming in or Google Hangouts or StreamYarding with their classes, or you just simply utilizing Flipgrid, right? Just seeing them take it to that next level is good, which we're currently in the process of probably seeing them take it to the next level again virtually with all of the increased cases here in Korea. So
so JD, I don't know if you know, we've almost doubled or tripled overnight in Korea.
In like the last
24 hours or whatever, man.
Last 72 hours we've gotten about 300 cases. So
wow. That's pretty wild. Well, wishing the best for you guys too. I was just reading some of the comments here too, and I hear that maybe it's the connection. I'm gonna try switching connections, as sometimes in this region of the world, have some different connections. So let me try something. I'm gonna jump back in maybe 2 minutes.
All right.
All right. So
thanks, JD.
Jump back in. Okay.
Sounds good. So Chris, tell us a little bit of it, because you were a design teacher in China. And you guys have been out for a while now. What kinds of things are you doing? And how are you handling practical type stuff with students?
Well, there's nothing practical going on. All we're doing is process journal work. Two of the classes, 6th and 7th, and the combined 7th class, were either done or starting a project. So they've spent 3 weeks either finishing up and working in Criterion D and doing their evaluating and working. They were working with each other to complete all of that. On the 6th graders were doing Criterion A, and they were researching their laser cut project is going to start without a laser cutter. I don't know how that's going to happen. And right now the 9s and 10s, they're just researching their passion project. So
Wow.
everything has been research based or working in their process journal, and we've not done anything practical. We've tossed ideas around. I've thrown ideas around with a couple of years about, do we have the kids do something digitally speaking? Or what am I going to have the kids go collect a bunch of toilet paper rolls and build a robot and a stick figure? I just don't know what the kids can do. We talked about the biggest thing to do, at least digitally, was to create some kind of web page. But then, what's the content that they put on the web page? So that's come up, and I wouldn't even want to do the web page with the middle schoolers. That would probably be with 9 and 10, because if we're not there to really control the content, that makes it really hard for middle schoolers and what they're going to put online.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, Sean, you've got you're thinking about this from more of a PYP perspective, but what sorts of products have you noticed so a little context. Last week we were closed for a week, or not 6 days, and then we came back this past week, and we're facing possibly closing again. But what sorts of products because we did have a chance to sit together and talk this week in person with each other and our students. If we were to close again, what sorts of things would you do different, and what would you continue to do?
I think one thing, especially obviously there's a lot of schools that are already in it. I think just giving it a day, just because you close because of it doesn't mean you jump into it. Treat it like just like a snow day or a typhoon day like we had, because in that way it not only gives admin, teachers, and staff time to get their heads wrapped around it and plan, but you're looking at all the moms and dads that now have their students not going to school for the foreseeable future, so then they have to plan. So you don't want to bombard them with all these learning activities day one when they're scrambling as well. But I think with as far as elementary and PYP, what's been successful with the village school is we just focus strictly on Seesaw, since we're Seesaw pre-K through 5, and put certain expectations there. But then a lot of other teachers have utilized Flipgrid, whether it's for more meetings or to drive the discussions if the kids quite aren't old enough to jump on webcam-based features. And then some utilizing the various video platforms. But now that especially we're getting, and I'm sure high schools are nearing this as well with IB exams, but we're getting close to exhibition. So now they've just got their groups. So we're going to push Zoom for our kids with the breakout rooms. So then that way the homeroom teacher can then pop in and the kids can still be doing their work possibly. But it's all just a flowable. Hopefully
absolutely.
Nobody sinks.
Hopefully nobody sinks. Exactly. Well, as a design teacher who went through it just for a week last week, I think something we've all said a couple times is not to add anything new to what we're already doing, to embrace the things we're already doing, because number one, like what Terry said earlier about us when we're talking about the parents. Hey, Terry, thanks for tuning in from Beijing. And he said, we've said, look, let's not add anything new to the plate. Let's use the platforms they're used to. So in our situation, ManageBack and Google Classroom are what we use in the middle school and the NYPDP situation. And so sticking with what they know, and then kind of going out from there, because I think the students are a lot more resilient than the parents and the teachers are when it comes to adopting new things. And so there was some, as a parent myself of having a couple of kids at home during that time, it was a little stressful, not knowing exactly what they should be doing at all times. But at the same time, it was good to see how they reacted. So I think they had a lot more time, a lot easier time adjusting. So, it is what it is, right? JD, you're back. Are you able to hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys. Is this any better now?
Great. That sounds good to me, man. Chris, are you able to hear JD a little better now?
Yes, I understood everything he said. That was clear and awesome. What did you do?
So yeah, change connections, and I saw drop the video just in case, just to make sure things were going.
Okay.
Smoothly.
Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, I can hear you really well.
Cool.
So before we started, Chris and I were talking a little bit about Chris, how long have you guys been out of school?
Well, we started Chinese New Year, on the 23rd of January, and we were out that week, and then we've been out the following 3 weeks. So I've been out 4 weeks now.
Is that the same for you guys, JD, as well?
So yeah, originally we're going to go back the 10th, and then it's been tentatively delayed till March 2nd. Right now, it seems to be pretty common in this area, this part of the area. So So definitely, it's been 2 weeks. We basically had 2 weeks so far. So And I like what you were saying earlier before about, like, if possible, trying to, keep as much as possible of what you're already currently doing, right? If things are working, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? There's no need to do it if you don't have to. But I think sometimes though, people aren't doing it, or for example, ManageBack I think is a great tool, but it doesn't always have. Once you get out 2 weeks, and if you're out 2 weeks, and maybe some people haven't, maybe they have a different approach. Maybe their materials are really on point. But sometimes it helps to have a little FaceTime with students, or videos, or things like that, to where they can actually, see you or feel, that sort of interaction. And maybe if they're not in class, they don't have maybe the same tools or things available if you're going to do some hands-on stuff. So I think sometimes it helps to be a little creative, but still, like you said, trying to use the tools available that, if it isn't broke, don't fix it.
That's exactly right.
Well,
so, Chris, what kinds of materials? Yeah, go ahead.
Well,
go ahead. Sorry.
Dovetail what JD said is that, I taught film for a number of years. So when we started doing the distance learning, I just jumped on screencast right away. And I think that allows, when you put a screencast on talking about the lesson, and if it's just simply working in the design journal or process journal or researching, they still hear your voice and hear your inflections and personality.
Exactly.
And I started to interject a little bit more, a couple screenshots and silliness, and again, trying to get back to the way the classroom is, although it's just in snippets, because the screencasts go between 5 and 10 minutes. I didn't want them to get too long. But those have been rather successful, so much so I've been tutoring a couple of the teachers and helping them to do their screencasts. But our school is not allowed to do one conversation on. It's for the Child Safety. I don't say Child Safety Act, but we cannot have a one-on-one video conference with a kid. And so they're trying, and they're talking about kind of amending that. That is correct. Yes, we cannot. And I even asked my administrator. I'm like, well, I've got my wife in the background. Can she be the extra adult? Because that's the thing. If I'm going to talk to a student, I have to have another teacher involved. Well, my wife is right there. Can she be the teacher?
Yeah.
That came back no. I said, can I have a conversation with the student? And this was working about the passion project, where the kids are coming up with their idea of what they're going to work on in April and May. And I mentioned to Jason what conversation should be 5 to 10 minutes in person are taking days in email. They're trying to get the kids to think about what is it you want to do. That's too easy. Let's make it more meaty. That's not really a solution. You're not solving anything. And I've been repeating myself ad nauseum in emails. And so, I tried to get a notion of having a student sit with their parent in the background, and that came back a no. So it's really interesting how challenging it's gotten for us to we can't even communicate face to face with our kids. That may change next week. We'll see.
It's a very fluid situation, like you said. I just want to pop up this comment from Terry about the collaboration aspect, and from my can you say something, please, Sean?
I had the glorious honor of popping into virtual meetings pre-K through 5. So it kept me well in the loop. But the best thing about it was when you're on a camera in your home, people don't beat around the bush. And they were some of the best meetings we've had all year. Instead of at school, you're in a room for an hour and a half window, and you think for some reason you have to fill that hour and a half.
Right.
So then you get off task or overdo things, where these were short, succinct, to the point, and got a lot of stuff done. So it was great for grade levels.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, I don't know, JD and Chris, what the feedback has been from the teachers at your schools, but our teachers were actually saying that, at least in the first part of the time that we were out of school, that students were actually more engaged than they were when they weren't in class, and but that usually had to do with older students, and they were having like virtual meetings through Google Meet or through Zoom, and they felt the students were more engaged because the timing was a little different or because the medium was a little different. What about you guys? What's been your experience with that?
So that's one good thing too, right? Getting feedback. So we've been getting feedback from students, from parents, from staff, and actually it seems to be the initial feedback so far is, you're getting a similar amount of engagement based on if the, students that are generally pretty on top of things are generally on top of things in the distance learning as well, right? So you're finding about a similar level of engagement based on their, their normal engagement in class. However, I think that it is, depending on how long it goes, that, like it's also a potential, it is a potential opportunity to engage in different ways, right? Like I know one of the things we did a long time ago, I read something about it, the whole idea of multiple intelligences, where I actually tried doing one class many years ago, completely silent. Because sometimes you notice some of those students who have the tendency to are really good speakers, right? And they like to participate, or if you're having a group discussion. So I read something about multiple intelligences and trying to, diversify class and letting students shine in different ways. So you try different things, and there was a really fun class where I didn't allow anybody. I shouldn't say it didn't allow people to speak, but made a game of it, right? Sort of like having people completely using their computers, to discuss, to collaborate, right? So we were working together, but instead of and you actually saw other students shine in different ways, because some students weren't always the most, they may have great ideas, but maybe they like to take a second to think and pause and answer, or maybe some are stronger typers and some are stronger, on the computer, whereas some are, more verbal and outgoing and extroverted. So it was interesting too to see how that dynamic plays out, which I think is good, not only in distance learning, but in a class, right? To think of that as not only trying to allow the most extroverted students to be able to, to have the strongest engagement in class discussions or group discussions, right? So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, changing your mode up is differentiation, right?
Yeah, so exactly. Totally.
That should be happening anyway, right? And
exactly.
We used to, when I used to teach in the U.S., we had this challenge where students had to communicate through walkie-talkies. And so one student had a drawing and had to tell the other student through the walkie-talkie in the other room how to do the drawing. And that sort of long distance, sort of being able to write processes and being able to do this and that, we were doing that 20 years ago, and it's crazy.
Exactly, and it's fun, right? And it's engaging, right? And you do that kind of activity, you mix it up, you keep on, like you said, it's different differentiation, multiple intelligences, right? Trying to get that, mixing it up in the classroom to where students have, and also keeping it fun and interesting too, right? Like you said, separating different rooms where you can walkie-talkies, having that sort of keeping people engaged and interested.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, JD, Chris, you guys are right in the middle of this closure situation. And as I mentioned earlier, Sean and I are thinking about what happens if Monday we're closed, and so we're still having that discussion. We've started putting together plans. Sean, what would you say that probably would be the number one thing we would change if we were to close again, that we would change from the last time that we were closed a week ago?
I would say just more just the communication throughout, like from admin to the teachers. Like I said earlier, maybe give a day or two just for everybody to wrap their head around of what in the world's about to happen. Because then where we kind of had a day where we closed Thursday after school, and then we had that Friday, and you have teachers building their plans, sharing plans from previous schools before we release our plan. And so teachers were still doing great things, but just the level of activities were. So I think having a week to discuss and break it down just as a school is just going to make it flow even smoother.
Okay. Great, thanks. And Chris, I wanted to ask you one thing. We were talking before we started about how at first your school was saying, okay, no summatives, only formative work, that kind of thing. And it seems like now they're kind of changing the possible outcomes there. Tell me a little bit about what it is you're doing with students now that you can begin to mark their work in a more summative fashion.
Well, it was like JD said earlier, we just did what we were already working on, and the kids were doing either the research or they were finishing up Criterion D. I was stretching it out just to fill time. I wanted the kids in this process to focus on their academic classes. And so, I kind of know where design falls, especially in this realm right now, that, kids do have to do it. But I wanted them to focus on their other classes. And so now I am running out of these options. And our school has said at the end of this week that we lives online, but we needed to submit our summatives to either a head of department or principal, which isn't a big deal. We do that self-regulation anyways. And, I'm just going to have the kids, once it's finished, they'll get to review it, and then they can continue to improve it for a summative mark, or I'm just going to mark it as a summative next week. And then, I'm running out of ideas on what to do. Quite honestly.
How about you, JD? What's the feel among the teachers at this point? Or are they starting to kind of hit a wall, or are they still full of good ideas, or what's going on?
Well, I think we're pretty lucky to a couple of things. First, a shout out, I think, to the IB. They seem to have been on top of it as well. I think our school has been in communication with the IB, and they've had some good discussions, and I think they've really tried to put out some clear guidance and guidelines. So I thought that was useful. So shout out to the IB on that. And also our administration for really being on top of it as well and trying to let people what to expect. So I think gives you a little bit of a chance to, and the teachers and the students and the parents to plan, and also plan for uncertainty, because there is a sort of sense of, we don't know exactly when, for sure. You have a tentative date. And so I would say we're pretty lucky to have a great team, and that has kept us pretty informed. And I think for teachers, and for myself, I'm not, I was the head of design for many years, but I'm currently the director of technology. So I try to support and throw out as many ideas as possible. I think that's part of where my role is now, really trying to be there for people like Chris, who's in the trenches. You know what I mean? Yeah. Really, just taking this on and taking this, working with parents and the students. And like you said, you had a plan, and this threw your whole plan, than probably what you originally had. So I'm trying to be there, doing as much research and communication, like talking to you guys, right? Talking to you. There's a really great network. Shine out to China EDU network as well, and it's of tech directors and great people and educators throughout China, Asia, and also online, right? Trying to tap into these resources. Like someone just mentioned collaboration. I think that is so key, because you learn so much from each other, and it's helpful and it's useful. And I think trying to share and build that spirit. One thing that's helped us has been collaboration, because we're not by ourselves as staff. You know what I mean? You may be at home, as you mentioned. Was that you, Sean? Like you're saying, more efficient meetings, but having those meetings, right? Talking. One thing that's been really useful is for secondary, there's been a group created within Microsoft Teams where teachers are communicating. I know it's not Google. I know you guys can say, oh yeah, but
we're
you know
really
what?
lucky. Okay.
Yeah, but it's been a pretty amazing tool. And
yeah,
utilizing Teams or like obviously Google tools like that to help us collaborate, communicate, know what other people are doing, what's working, what's not working, sharing ideas. And I think that's useful as well. So that's what I would say is trying to share ideas, collaborate, and help each other out.
Absolutely. Well, we're here to help you guys. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Chris. Yeah, I mean, Sean.
You can call me whatever.
Whatever.
No, I think that's been a huge benefit. Well, I guess a benefit for Korea coming into this late in the game is just utilizing the EdTech Tech Director PLN, like especially through like 21st century learning. All of those people through there have been a great asset of just seeing and hearing, oh, we tried this didn't work. So just like you use your teachers within your own school, but utilizing and borrowing and stealing from other schools as well to help build and prepare.
Yeah, I think that your PLN, no matter where you're at, whether you're being shut down because of a volcanic eruption or whether it's because of a virus or because of whatever, that PLN is, I know Twitter has been super helpful. I know Sean and I use it quite a bit, and that particular network has been great. But again, we're kind of out from behind the big wall that keeps you from getting a lot of things. And so, we get the Google stuff and we get those sorts of things. And so I hear, though, from what I've heard, that Microsoft Teams has been really useful. And Chris, you were saying that before we started, and to hear JD talking about it, it makes me interested to know, how they've moved with that, and how because I know that we didn't have anything like that when I left China 3 years ago. So to hear that that's now on board and people are using it is really good to hear. So that's great. Cool. Chris, you okay there? Okay. Well, listen, guys. Yeah, everything's good. Okay. So it sounds like, in the end, it comes down to don't introduce anything new as far as your platform goes. Stick with what you know. It seems like communication and collaboration are super important, but that's true every day, but especially when you're not at school. And then, being creative with the way you have students turn things in. So Chris and I, again, were talking earlier, and I was saying, a lot of our students, when they graduate and go to college or university, it's a high likelihood they will have an online course at some point, and they will have to collaborate through distance and remotely. And so actually this is, like what JD was saying, a really good opportunity for people to be able to begin seeing possibility of learning online and learning through distance learning. So I think we just have to keep the lines of communication open, like having these online discussions, having these Twitter chats, things like that. We just have to keep doing that, and keep saying that. So listen, I appreciate you guys coming today. I know it's late, but I'm telling you, everybody's really appreciative of you taking your time. JD, thanks so much. Are you in China at the moment, JD?
Yes, I am. I'm in the beautiful Qingdao. And actually, a shout out, since we're on here, a good chance, I know you're here. Everybody gets to read the news. I don't know who's out there, but I think it's one of the best, most rated, most livable city in China. For any professionals looking to explore some new cities, feel free to contact me or Jason. We're always looking for good people. Yeah. And it's beautiful. I was just out on a walk on the beach today, the mountains, surrounded by a great team of people. So if you're looking for a beautiful city and a professional challenge, give us a shout.
Yeah. Qingdao is a great city. And from what I hear, they have some pretty good adult beverages, so that's good.
Oh, they do. Yes, they do.
Some of the fresh. And then we have Chris. Chris, you'll tell everybody where you're at the moment?
I'm down in a little island called Gili T. It's an island right off of Lombok in Indonesia. So there's the island of Bali, and in between Bali and Lombok are the 3 islands, the Gili Islands, and I'm on one of those. My wife and I are.
That shouldn't be too bad to teach remotely from there, huh?
No, it's not. But after a week, paradise loses its luster quickly.
It does.
When you don't have much to do, you lose your diet, your routine, your sense of self in a number of ways.
Yeah.
So it's been a challenge. We're actually starting to and wanting to get back to Shanghai, and we're going to start pursuing that with a little more gusto here.
Yeah, I know we're expecting to go back and then get the word that you can't, and you had to bop around different places. So I know what it's like to live out of a suitcase for a while, and that's not fun. And I'm sure there's a lot of people in that situation at the moment. As Terry, as Terry said here, he thinks that we have to leverage the situation because flipped classrooms, I think we talked about, JD said earlier, is what we've been doing and moving towards for a long time. But now what's happening is that the early adopters are becoming the teachers, right? And so the people who are used to doing the flipped classroom and have been utilizing those tools are now being able to share that with people who were less likely to do that. So it's great that these things are happening. I got a shout out to StreamYard. This is a really neat platform to be able to share this information. And I think it'd be great if they can also, they have a lot of different platforms. It's not only YouTube that they work through. So it's something worth check out. But well, listen, guys, thank you guys so much for joining us. I know everybody who was here enjoyed the conversation. I hope you can see yourself to come back and join us again another time. But thanks so much for having time to come and see us today.
Thanks, Jason, and great to see you guys as well. And also shout out to Terry. Great comments.
Terry. That's awesome. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for organizing, Jason. Really appreciate your
effort.
Amazing.
Awesome. Okay.